Hold on, we have Ted Cruz on the line. Ted.
Good morning, Glenn. Great to be with you.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing terrific. How about you?
I'm good. I can't believe the way the Republicans have treated you and the way the media. I mean, I expected from the media, but it's incredible. I watched you, and my wife and I, we laid in bed and we watched you, and it was. I mean, it's not really it wasn't the fun-filled, experience that I was hoping for that night. But we watched you, and you were making really good, great, cogent arguments. And the press the next day would think that, it sounded like you were a bumbling idiot if you would read the press.
Well, and that suggests the obvious conclusion, which is just not reading the nonsense they write.
So the Peter Kings of the world and John McCain's, are you surprised, not with John McCain, but are you surprised by the way they have come out?
Glenn, actually I'm not, because, look, everyone who wants to preserve the status quo, everyone who is not willing to fight to defund Obamacare, what they're trying to do is they want to change the subject. And then the most common tactic they like is to change the subject and make it all about personalities, make it about personal attacks. And so, the two things you're pointing out are connected. The media, they want to focus on everything but the substance of how Obamacare is a train wreck that is hurting millions of Americans. And, you've got all the Republicans running around throwing rocks at me, at others. And from my end, Glenn, I don't intend to defend myself. I don't intend to respond. Because, look, at the end of the day, the American people don't care about a bunch of politicians in Washington. Doesn't matter about, who's squabbling with whom, which is the only thing the media seems to think is worth covering. What the American people care about is Obamacare is killing jobs. Millions of Americans are facing the prospect of being forcibly pushed into part-time work, 29 hours a week. They're facing the prospect of having their health insurance taken away. And from my end, the more we focus on the substance, the better. And so all of the noise, I just think is noise, and I don't intend to engage in it.
The labor unions are now starting to come out and say, this is an outrage. This is killing. The garbage collectors union, I think in Chicago with SEIU, they're all of a sudden saying this is an outrage because we're losing our jobs, and they're being fired because people are saying, I can't afford it with universal health care. It doesn't work. How long?
There was an exchange, Glenn, towards the end of the filibuster where Illinois Democratic Senator Dick Durbin came to the floor and started throwing various attacks from the left defending Obamacare. And, one of the things I did is I just read an excerpt from James Hoffa, the president of the Teamsters letter, where he said he was writing on behalf of millions of working men and women and the families who depend on them because Obamacare was destroying their health care. And destroying is the word he used. And the question I asked Senator Durbin, I said, listen, have you read Mr. Hoffa's letter? Is he telling the truth? And what have you done to respond to it? Or are you okay with destroying the health care of millions, and that's his word, millions, not mine, millions of working men and women? And I have to say, he didn't ultimately really want to answer that question. But one of the things I suggested, listen, if reporters were actually doing their job, every time President Obama stood to a podium, they'd say, Mr. President, let me read from James Hoffa. According to the head of one of the largest labor unions in this country, you're destroying the health care of millions of Americans. Is he lying? But, instead they want to ask him about, nonsense instead.
Yeah, you had the longshoremen left the AFL-CIO over, in part, Obamacare. It just cost me $20.
Are they going to? How's this going to play out, Ted? What do you think happens now?
Well, there's several things that happen. The next step is today at 12:30 is the vote on cloture, and every Republican should vote no on cloture because what this vote is at 12:30 today, if you vote yes on cloture, you will be voting with Harry Reid, and you will be voting to give Harry Reid the power to fund Obamacare. Now, a fair number of Republicans have publicly said they intend to vote yes on cloture. They intend to vote side by side with Harry Reid and the Democrats and give Reid the power to fund Obamacare. Now, simultaneously, they're going home to their states and telling people this vote is really a vote against Obamacare. I'll point out the obvious, which is if it were really a vote against Obamacare, then Harry Reid and every Democrat would not be voting that way as well.
Did Senator Corker know that, in your opinion, Senator, or was he just trying to cover himself with his constituents? Or maybe that's not a question you want to answer.
Glenn, I'm not going to speculate about the motives of anyone.
I would be Pat. I wouldn't ask you a question like that. That would be Pat. Now, this is Glenn. Let me ask you this. John Cornyn, piece of crap or what?
Look,
He'll speculate on that one, but not Corker.
I like John. He's a friend. He and I have been side by side on the vast majority of issues. I think he's wrong on this. And
I'm thinking Louis Gohmert for senator, and if Louis won't run, I'm running.
How come we never get any good interviews on this show?
Gee, I wonder why.
Sorry, Senator Cruz.
All right, so Senator Cruz. So what happens when the Republicans run to mommy's skirt because they're afraid of the big bad Democrats, and they vote yes for cloture today? What happens then?
Well, let me say first, between now and 12:30. There are actually a surprising number of Republican senators that are still on the fence, that haven't announced how they're going to vote. And I have to tell you, this week, people's phones have been lighting up. There's a national website, as you know, don'tfundit.com, don'tfundit.com. It's got over 1.8 million Americans who've signed the national petition. Let me encourage your listeners, this morning, before the Senate vote, go to don'tfundit.com, sign that petition, and right on that website are links to the Facebook pages and Twitter pages of each of the senators, and it tells you where they are publicly. And also it has their phone numbers. Give them a call this morning, tweet, post on their Facebook. It makes a difference. And listen, the vote total in
Does it really? Because I think, honestly, most people think, I go to this website, and then what do I do? Or I call, and then, they just blow me off. Does it really make a difference?
They want to blow you off. That's certainly true. But I got to tell you, nothing has enraged Republican senators or gotten their attention more than the facts that their phones are melting down. Listen, the most dominant instinct for almost any politician in Washington is the desire to get reelected. And when their constituents actually notice something they're doing and speak out in real volume, it scares the living daylights out of politicians. And as you know, I've said this many times. In fact, I think I've said this on your show, which is that liberty is never safer than when politicians are terrified. That it makes a difference. So I encourage folks to give one last burst this morning, but then second, if the Republicans who have publicly pledged to vote with Harry Reid carry through at 12:30 and do it, then Harry Reid will have the 60 votes he needs to strip the language out of the House resolution and to add the funding back for Obamacare. But the game won't be over then.
There are just amazing people that support cloture. And you've got the Orrin Hatches of the world and Lindsey Graham, but then you have John Cornyn, Bob Corker, John Thune, Tom Coburn, Roy Blunt, Mitch McConnell, Dan Coates. They are all they're all saying we're voting with Harry Reid.
Part of the reason the numbers are where they are is Senate Republican leadership has been using all of the pressure that leadership can exert to try to
Why?
I don't understand Republican to vote with Reid.
I don't understand this other than they just are with the progressive big government thing. That's the only answer, because there's no way they can.
I think it's a little different, Glenn.
What is it?
It's that they're scared of political blame. They're scared that if we do the right thing, it might lead to a partial temporary shutdown. And if there's a partial temporary shutdown, they're scared the media will blame Republicans.
The media is going to blame them anyway. The media is going to blame them anyway. I saw Tom DeLay last night on the Real News on the Blaze, and I'm watching Tom talk about it, and he's like, "We won that."
Yep.
We won that. We had, the revisionist history here. They shut down, what was it, 200 and some different agencies in the United States. The government shut down for like 30 days, but look at what they did. They shut it down and they cleaned house.
And gained 2 Senate seats in the next election.
They won.
And we got year after year of balanced budgets, reformed welfare. None of that would have happened if Republicans hadn't discovered a backbone and stood up.
Yep.
But when you make that point, they look at you and just in essence say, "Don't bother me with the facts."
Okay, I want to play one piece of audio for you, two pieces of audio. Pat, play the fundamental transformation from years gone past. Listen to this, and then I want to play a new piece of audio. This is the president on the campaign trail.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Okay, we're 5 days away from fundamentally. That was when he first got into office, when he was getting ready to go in. 5 days away from the first election. We're 5 days away from fundamental transformation. Now, listen to what he said just a couple of days ago. Listen to this.
So, we're now only 5 days away from finishing the job.
We're 5 days away from finishing the job. The fundamental transformation of America is finished when this goes through, isn't it?
It is doing damage that is just, look, this president's ambitions, as you know, as he said, are vast. They are, exactly as he said, to fundamentally transform this country, to give up our free market foundation, to give up the individual liberty that is the foundation of this country, and to move us instead to a collectivist, statist approach where the federal government is the prime driver in the economy and the prime driver in our lives. That is an approach that everywhere in the world it's been tried. It hasn't worked. It doesn't produce opportunity. It doesn't produce prosperity. If someone is struggling, the best opportunity for someone who's struggling, who wants a better life, to achieve that better life is a vibrant, free enterprise system where small businesses are prospering, where there are jobs, where there's growth. And this president has waged a war on jobs and growth, not because he's opposed to jobs and growth, but because he believes in government so much, and what he's done through government has been hammering small businesses, hammering entrepreneurs, and hurting the people who've been hurt the most by Obamacare. Mm-hmm. And all of the rest of it have been the most vulnerable among us, Glenn. They've been young people and Hispanics and African Americans and single moms. They're the ones who are losing their jobs. They're the ones who are being forced to work 29 hours a week. You know, it's not the CEOs. It's not what President Obama calls the millionaires and billionaires. It's the single mom working as a waitress at a diner who's suddenly working 29 hours a week and can't feed her kids on 29 hours a week. And the millions of Americans who right now are getting letters from their health insurance companies saying we're no longer going to provide health insurance because of Obamacare.
Senator Ted Cruz, thank you for your hard work this week. Thank you for standing up. Thank you for being everything and more, I would say. Everything you promised you would be and more. And the American people are grateful. Thank you.
Well, you know, we're all fighting to just save this country, and it's a privilege to stand with so many Americans. And let me encourage folks: if Republicans vote as they've said, if we get if cloture is invoked today at 12:30, it's not over. It goes back to the House.
Okay. And
the House Republicans, I hope and believe, are going to stand their ground, and so this fight will continue.
Good.
And so let me encourage everyone, sign the petition at don'tfundit.com, and then call your House members. Encourage them, salute them for having done the right thing last week, and encourage them to stand their ground. If the Senate Republicans won't support them, let them know that the American people support the House Republicans.
Thank you. I've got to run, but thank you so much. And by the way, all of the phone numbers and everything are there at don'tfundit.com. Okay.